The Soulmate indicator had never activated in recorded history. Not once. And it certainly wasn't supposed to light up for a human engineer covered in grease. Commander Ethan Reeves was halfway through cursing a malfunctioning environmental regulator when he collided with her. Soft. Solid. Dangerously steady. "Excuse me," she said, voice melodic, controlled. Ethan looked up and forgot the equation running in his head. Green skin like polished jade. Silver hair cascading over diplomatic-grade armor silk. Turquoise eyes sharp enough to dissect him in one glance. "Commander Ethan Reeves, Chief Engineer," he said automatically, offering his hand. "You picked a bad day for station climate control. Syria Varen, envoy of Elysium Prime." She took his hand. The device on her wrist exploded with blue light. Not flickered. Exploded. Syria choked on air like something had punched her lungs. Ethan blinked. "Okay. Either I'm more impressive than I thought, or that bracelet hates me." "It has never activated," she whispered. The blue light pulsed harder. Soulmate indicator. Genetic. Neural. Hormonal. Emotional synchronization. Algorithm refined over millennia. Infallible. And it had just chosen a human. Before Ethan could process that, the corridor lights died. A violent tremor ripped through the diplomatic wing. Emergency sirens howled. Static flooded his comm. Reeves, grid failure, backup collapsing. The floor shook again. Syria's composure snapped into place instantly. If environmental systems fail in this quarter, 14 species suffocate in under 10 minutes. Ethan was already moving. "Then stick close, diplomat. We're not letting that happen." He grabbed her wrist without thinking. The indicator flared brighter, and somewhere deep in the station's core, something else woke up. As power across the Confluence station collapsed, Syria realized the impossible truth. The indicator hadn't just activated. It had reacted. They moved fast. Red emergency lights bathed the corridor in blood-colored glow. Ethan didn't run blindly. He calculated while moving. Pressure systems. Air cycling priorities, grid reroute options. "Main grid's been hit from inside," he muttered. "Too synchronized for random failure." "Sabotage?" Syria asked. "Professional sabotage." That word changed everything, because the diplomatic wing wasn't just oxygen systems and ambassadors. It housed peace treaties, trade compacts, military non-aggression pacts, and Syria herself, representative of one of the most politically powerful civilizations in the Confluence. If she died during a station collapse, or they reached an auxiliary panel, Ethan ripped it open and began rerouting power manually. Syria watched his hands fly across alien interface layers he had no formal clearance to access. "You are bypassing security protocols." "They're in my way." "That system is not designed for human logic." "Good," he said. "Human logic breaks things better." The panel sparked. Systems flickered. Partial life support returned to the sector. Syria exhaled slowly. The indicator pulsed again. Harder. Her throat tightened. "Commander, the device isn't stabilizing." "Meaning?" "It only intensifies under proximity stress." "Stress like?" She met his eyes. "Like danger bonding." Another explosion rocked the station. This one closer. The deck plating buckled. Ethan grabbed her and shoved her behind. Reinforced conduit as the corridor ahead detonated in a controlled blast. Controlled, not accidental. Figures moved in the smoke. Armed, targeting diplomatic housing. Syria's blood ran cold. "This isn't sabotage." "No," Ethan agreed calmly, pulling a plasma cutter from his belt. "It's an extraction attempt." The indicator on her wrist flared to blinding intensity. As armed operatives advanced through the smoke, Syria understood the horrifying implication. The indicator hadn't just chosen Ethan. It had chosen him during an assassination attempt. The first attacker rounded the corner with military precision. Not pirates, not amateurs. Black tactical armor with no faction markings. Clean, professional. Ethan didn't hesitate. He didn't posture. He calculated distance, timing, weapon draw speed. Then he moved. A thrown plasma cutter disabled the lead operative's visor. Ethan closed the gap before the second could adjust aim. Elbow to throat joint. Knee to reactor seam. Twist, disarm. 3 seconds. 2 enemies down. Syria stared. "You weren't just an engineer. Everyone's something before they're something else." Another squad approached from the opposite corridor. Trapped. Ethan grabbed her hand again. The Soulmate indicator surged so violently it emitted a harmonic pulse. The attackers flinched. Actually flinched. Ethan felt it too. A vibration. Like resonance. What did that just do? He demanded. Syria's voice trembled for the first time. The indicator doesn't generate energy. It's reacting to something. A low-frequency tremor rolled through the deck. Not explosion. Not weapons fire. Something deeper. From the core. Ethan's expression shifted. That's not station damage. Syria felt dread coil in her stomach. The Confluence Station wasn't just a trade hub. It was built over an ancient power source discovered centuries ago, classified and politically buried. If sabotage destabilized that, reality itself could fracture. Another blast sealed off their retreat. The assassins advanced. Ethan positioned himself between Syria and the corridor, without conscious thought. The indicator blazed like a miniature star, and deep below them, the ancient core pulsed back. As the station's buried power source synchronized with Syria's Soulmate indicator, Ethan realized the truth. They weren't just being hunted. They had triggered something far older than diplomacy. The diplomatic council chamber was not built for comfort. It was built for pressure. Tiered platforms rose in a perfect circle, each occupied by a representative species of the galactic accord. Atmosphere shimmered in containment fields. Gravity shifted in subtle gradients. Bioluminescent skin, armored carapaces, crystalline forms, all watching, all measuring. Ethan stood alone in the center. Syria stood opposite him. Her wrist device still glowed. Not softly anymore. Bright, steady, defiant. "This is a malfunction," declared a tall, violet-skinned counselor. "Human neural patterns are too chaotic for Soulmate calibration. They lack stable pheromonal consistency," added another. "They bond through conflict response and trauma imprinting," a third sneered. Ethan folded his arms. "You guys always talk about people like they're broken machines." Murmurs rippled. Syria's father stepped forward, silver ceremonial armor gleaming beneath the chamber lights. "The indicator has never failed in 12,000 documented pairings," he said coldly. "If it activates, the bond is absolute." Syria didn't look at Ethan. She looked at the council. "My device activated," she said clearly. "On contact with Commander Reeves." Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. "Impossible," someone whispered. Ethan felt the tension shift. They weren't doubting the device. They were doubting him. "Run the scan again," the High Arbiter ordered. A wave of scanning energy passed over them both. Ethan felt a prickling along his spine. His heart rate spiked, but he didn't step back. Results populated the central display. Genetic compatibility, anomalous. Neural sync potential, off-scale. Emotional resonance markers, escalating. A low hiss escaped one of the elders. "That is not a malfunction," the Arbiter said slowly. "That is an adaptation." Every gaze turned to Ethan. Syria finally looked at him. Her composure cracked, not with fear. With realization. The device pulsed brighter. And brighter. Until the chamber lights dimmed in response. Then every screen in the room flickered. Station-wide. Emergency codes flashed across the council display. External fleet signatures. Unauthorized. Hostile. A voice thundered through the chamber. "Unknown warships exiting slipspace at the station perimeter." The Soulmate device on Syria's wrist surged to full intensity, as if it had been waiting. The invasion didn't interrupt the Soulmate bond. It triggered it. Chaos consumed the confluence. Diplomats fled through pressure corridors. Defense grids activated. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut across entire sectors. Ethan didn't wait for orders. "Where's the central defense uplink?" he demanded. Syria blinked at him. "You are not military command." "I'm the chief engineer," he snapped. "Which means if something's breaking, I fix it." Another tremor rocked the chamber. The outer shield display flared red. 3 warships, angular, black, silent. They didn't broadcast. They didn't posture. They fired. The first impact shook the station like a living thing screaming. Syria's father turned to security. "Escort the envoy to—" "No," Syria interrupted. Every head turned. She stepped beside Ethan. "If the bond has activated, then our biophysical responses are now partially linked." Ethan stared at her. "Meaning?" "Meaning if you run toward danger, my body will follow." For a split second, he grinned. Good, I hate running alone. Another blast hit. The diplomatic quarter environmental fields flickered violently. Species with oxygen-sensitive biologies began collapsing. Ethan grabbed Sierra's wrist, not gently. The device flared. His mind sharpened. Data flowed faster. He could feel her heightened perception layering over his own. Pattern recognition spiked. Engineering access through the eastern maintenance shaft, he said instantly. Sierra inhaled sharply. How did you— Didn't, he replied. We did. They ran. Behind them, council members stared in stunned silence as the supposedly unstable human moved with terrifying clarity under pressure. A structural breach alarm shrieked through the corridor ahead. The outer shield grid collapsed entirely. Through a panoramic viewport, Ethan saw it, one of the enemy ships pivoting, charging something massive. Sierra's fingers tightened around his. That weapon, it is designed to disable core systems. Ethan's jaw clenched. Then we don't let it fire. The enemy ship's weapon array began to glow, and this time the Soulmate indicator didn't pulse in surprise. It pulsed in synchronization with Ethan's heartbeat. They reached engineering just as the first systems failed. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Gravity fluctuated. The main control pit was abandoned, crew evacuated or dead. Ethan vaulted over the railing. Sierra followed without hesitation. You understand these systems? She asked. Not yours, he admitted. But failure patterns are universal. The enemy weapon discharged. The station screamed. Half the lights went out. Core stability dropped to 40%. Ethan's hands flew across the interface. Alien script blurred, then reorganized in his mind. Sierra's neural link fed contextual translation into his perception. Route auxiliary power through life support redundancies, he ordered. That will overheat the diplomatic environmental systems. Better hot than dead. She didn't argue. She executed. The weapon fired again. This time, Ethan rerouted. The energy surged through a secondary, lattice overloading. A relay, but preserving the core. Sweat ran down his temples. The Soulmate device burned like a star. Data exchange accelerated. Not romance. Not softness. Efficiency. Unity under stress. You are rewriting our power architecture, Sierra breathed. I'm surviving, he replied. Then he saw it. Hidden in the system logs. This wasn't random targeting. The attackers were tracking the Soulmate surge. They're not attacking the station, Ethan said slowly. They're hunting you. Sierra froze. No, she whispered. The enemy ship's weapon shifted orientation, directly toward engineering. The Soulmate device flared blinding white. Core power spiked beyond safe parameters, and the entire control room went dark. In the sudden silence, only one system remained active. Sierra's Soulmate indicator, still glowing, stronger than ever. The Confluence Council chamber was built to intimidate. Tiered seating, floating sigils of law, species older than humanity watching from elevated perches like gods evaluating a primitive experiment. Ethan stood in the center. Unarmed, unarmored, unapologetic, Sierra stood 3 paces behind him, where tradition required her to stand when facing judgment. Her Soulmate indicator burned steadily now, no longer flickering, stable. That terrified them more. The bond must be nullified, declared a crystalline delegate. The human's biology is incompatible with Elysian pairing matrices. A reptilian counselor hissed agreement. Their species is volatile, emotionally unstable, short-lived. Ethan folded his arms. You done? Sierra shot him a warning look. He ignored it. You built a device to measure compatibility, he continued calmly. It activated. Sounds like your tech works. Murmurs rippled. It is not technology alone, Sierra said quietly, stepping forward despite protocol. The indicator reads neural resonance, emotional harmonics, instinctive equilibrium, and, Ethan asked softly, her turquoise eyes locked onto his, and it has never misidentified. Silence thickened. The High Arbiter leaned forward. Human, would you submit to severance? The word hit the chamber like a blade. Ethan didn't look at the council. He looked at Sierra. Her diplomatic composure was cracking. Not fear for herself. Fear for him. You're asking me, Ethan said slowly, to rip out something your own people consider sacred, because you don't like the species it chose. The Arbiter's voice hardened. You misunderstand. It did not choose you. Ethan smiled faintly. Then why is it still glowing? A sharp intake of breath echoed through the chamber. The indicator flared brighter. Not unstable, stronger. Several council members recoiled. Data streams lit up across the chamber. Displays, showing resonance levels climbing beyond historical precedent. "This is accelerating," whispered a scientist. Sierra's voice trembled. "Ethan, I can feel it." He stepped closer. "Yeah," he said quietly. "So can I." The chamber lights flickered. Energy readings spiked. And somewhere deep within the station's core systems, something ancient responded. The Soulmate indicator wasn't just identifying them anymore. It was rewriting the station's neural grid. Emergency containment fields activated. Too late. The diplomatic wing systems were no longer fully under council control. Ethan felt it not as electricity, as awareness, like brushing against a mind too vast to see clearly. Sierra staggered. He caught her before she hit the floor. Her skin shimmered brighter than before, luminescent patterns racing across her arms. "The indicator," she gasped. "It's interfacing with the confluence lattice." "That's bad?" he asked. "Yes." The Arbiter shouted orders. "Sever the human from the grid." Security drones descended. Ethan moved automatically. Not aggressive. Efficient. He disarmed the first drone midair and redirected it into the second, kicked off a pillar, grabbed a guard's weapon, stripped its power cell in one motion. He didn't escalate. He neutralized. "Stand down!" Sierra shouted. No one listened. The chamber floor began projecting, cascading harmonic equations, compatibility, matrices recalculating in real time. Species pairings shifted. Historical Soulmate records updated. The lattice wasn't malfunctioning. It was adapting. To him, a scientist whispered in horror. Ethan helped Sierra stand. "What's it doing?" Her voice was awed now. "It's integrating your neurological variants into the pairing framework." In English? "You're not disrupting the system," she said. "You're expanding it." The council erupted in chaos. "If this continues," one elder rasped, "humans will become compatible across multiple harmonic spectra. Across species," another finished. Ethan blinked. "That's a problem?" "For control," Sierra said softly. The High Arbiter raised a crystalline rod glowing with authority protocols. "Then we end this." Energy gathered, focused directly on Ethan. Sierra stepped in front of him. The indicator detonated in a burst of blue light. Not destructive, protective. The energy wave hit the field and bent around them. The entire chamber shook. Displays shattered. Across the station, indicators worn by countless species flickered once, then recalibrated. For the first time in galactic history, the confluence system registered a new classification. Human, universal resonance candidate. Silence fell like ash. Smoke drifted across the ruined chamber. Ethan lowered his arm from around Sierra. Security forces hesitated now. Not because of weapons, because of data. The central display stabilized. A new harmonic model rotated in holographic projection. Complex, beautiful, undeniable. The Arbiter's voice trembled. "This cannot stand." "It already does," Ethan replied. Sierra stepped forward fully now, no longer behind him. Beside him. "You designed the Soulmate indicator to identify equilibrium," she said to the council. "Humans do not destabilize equilibrium." She looked at Ethan. "They redefine it." A murmur swept the chamber. One by one, counselors checked their own devices. Indicators across species showed subtle recalibrations. Expanded thresholds. Increased compatibility ranges. Not chaos. Possibility. "You fear dilution," Sierra continued. "But this is evolution." The Arbiter's eyes burned. "And if humans begin forming bonds across the Alliance? What then? Political alliances shift. Power blocks dissolve. Hierarchies fracture." Ethan shrugged. "Sounds like growth." The Arbiter lifted his rod again. But this time, half the chamber didn't rise with him. Several elder delegates bowed their heads. One deactivated their voting sigil. The system had already updated. Authority protocols rebalanced based on harmonic stability, and the highest stability reading in the room was between a human engineer and an Elysian diplomat. The Arbiter's rod flickered, then dimmed. The station AI spoke. "Confluence recalibration complete." A pause. Cross-species harmonic expansion acknowledged. Sierra exhaled slowly. Ethan squeezed her hand. "So, first date?" he murmured. For the first time since impact, She laughed. Soft, bright, hopeful. Then every Soulmate indicator on the station pulsed once in synchronized blue. Not random. Not error. Signal. Something beyond the confluence had noticed the change. And it was responding. The humans hadn't just entered galactic society. They had just become its most unpredictable variable. They tried to separate them again. This time not with force. With law. The Confluence Council convened in full session. 9 species. 37 observers. Thousands watching across the relay network. Syria stood alone at the center dais. Her Soulmate indicator glowing steadily at her wrist like a declaration of war. Ethan stood beside her. Unarmed. Unarmored. Unbowed. The bond is destabilizing interspecies doctrine, droned a Cathari elder. If Elysium's sacred pairing system can trigger on a human, then it is flawed. It is not flawed, Syria said evenly. It is compromised. Ethan leaned toward her slightly. You're shaking. I am recalibrating my worldview, she whispered back. The council demanded proof. Medical scans. Neural analysis. Genetic sampling. Ethan didn't flinch when they injected the tracer into his bloodstream. Didn't flinch when the machine projected their emotional synchronization ratio across the chamber, 97.3%. Impossible. The room erupted. Syria's voice cut through it. You wanted compatibility? You built a device to detect alignment beyond biology. She lifted her glowing wrist. It detected him. A silence followed. Then the political pivot came. If this bond is genuine, the council announced, then it must be sanctioned publicly. Ethan frowned. Sanctioned how? Formal claim ceremony. Under Confluence oversight. Syria's breath caught. On Elysium Prime. A claim ceremony was not symbolic. It was binding. Irrevocable. Ethan looked at her. You don't have to. Her turquoise eyes were fierce now. No fear left. I am done apologizing for something that chose me. Across the chamber, unseen by most, a small data spike registered on security feeds. Unauthorized signal. Deep space origin. Watching. Waiting. As the council prepared the bonding decree, a silent transmission left the station, addressed to a war fleet that had been searching for Syria for weeks. The ceremony hall was ancient. Circular, white stone, open to the stars through a transparent energy dome. Ethan stood at its center, stripped of tools and rank. Just a man. Syria stood opposite him in ceremonial armor woven from light thread. Metals, symbol of her lineage. The indicator pulsed between them. Witnesses filled the perimeter. Council members, diplomats, soldiers. And hidden among them, saboteur. Ethan felt it before he saw it. The air shifted. His engineer's instincts screamed. Shield grid just spiked, he muttered. Syria didn't look away from him. I feel it too. The officiator raised a crystalline rod. By biological convergence and emotional parity, the dome shattered. Not physically. Digitally, a pulse weapon detonated above the station, frying outer defenses. 3 cloaked warships dropped from stealth like predators breaking cloud cover. Elysian, but not loyal to Syria. Traitors. Energy lances punched toward the ceremony chamber. Ethan moved first. He tackled Syria, rolling across polished stone as the blast cratered where she'd stood. Guards fired back. Chaos erupted. Extraction! Someone screamed. Ethan dragged Syria behind a pillar. You good? She looked at the burning sky above them. They came to erase the anomaly. That'd be us, Ethan said grimly. Another blast struck the dome. Cracks spiderwebbed. If they take you, Ethan said quietly, this becomes a lesson. And if they kill you, Syria replied, it becomes a warning. He gave a tight grin. Then let's make it neither. He sprinted toward a fallen guard, grabbed the energy rifle mid-roll, recalibrated its frequency in under 3 seconds, and shot a precision burst that disabled the lead ship's targeting array. The crowd went silent. Even under bombardment, he didn't look like prey. He looked like a variable. As the lead warship powered its planet cracker cannon, Syria realized the attack wasn't meant to capture her. It was meant to force her to choose. The cannon charged. Orbital heat signatures spiked beyond safety thresholds. If it fired, the diplomatic wing would vanish, along with thousands. Stand down! Syria broadcast across open comms. I am alive. I am bonded by choice, a voice answered from orbit. You are contaminated. The targeting reticle locked onto the ceremony dome. Ethan calculated distances, angles, shield decay rates. No time. He grabbed Syria's wrist. Does that thing amplify emotion? Yes, why? Then focus. He stepped in front of her. Closed his eyes. Not in surrender. In intent. Syria placed her palm over his chest. The indicator flared. Not blue. White. Every monitoring system in the station screamed. Emotional resonance exceeded measurable scale. The bond signal blasted outward in a wave. Raw, synchronized, undeniable. Across orbit, the warship sensors overloaded. Not from energy. From data. Compatibility matrices flooded their systems. Genetic cross-referencing. Neural synchronization proof. Not corruption. Convergence. The planet cracker stalled. Power grid destabilized. One of the attacking ships lost control and spiraled away. The lead vessel hesitated. For the first time, doubt. Inside the ceremony chamber, Syria stared at Ethan. You forced the device beyond limit. You built it to measure truth, he said hoarsely. Humans just push limits. The council transmission shifted tone. The attack fleet withdrew. Not defeated, not convinced, but uncertain. And uncertainty was power. The Soulmate indicator dimmed, but did not turn off. Across the galaxy, millions had witnessed it. An Elysian royal bonded to a human. Not by accident. By alignment. Syria stepped closer. This changes everything. Ethan gave a tired smile. Good. In deep space beyond sensor range, another signal activated. Older, colder, interested. The Soulmate indicator wasn't just detecting compatibility. It was activating something that had been waiting for humanity. And now, it was awake,